Hello out there in cryptocurrency land. Welcome back to Real Crypto. Thanks for joining me here today. We're going to start out today with the Bitcoin on the daily chart. We're going to move down into the smaller term time frames. Then we're going to take a look at some of the bigger altcoins and a couple of movers here as well. We're going to look at ONT. We're going to look at BNB. And I think that's all we're going to have time for today. All right, so taking a look at Bitcoin on the daily chart. So you can see here we're well below this 200 period moving average, well below the 50 period moving average. As we all know, we've been supported by this trend line here in Bitcoin. Being supported here, volume still extremely low. 7,000 average volume now. This is getting ridiculous, guys. Someone's going to have to buy some Bitcoin, but they're not doing it. They're not buying the Bitcoin, so what do you think is going to happen to the price if no one's supporting the price action? Interesting thesis. So we came down and tested this low trend line, and right now we're basically stuck in a choppy range. We're stuck in a choppy range, and it's going to be that way until it's not. And so there's really no definitive place that Bitcoin's going to go. Right now, we had a little bounce here a couple of days ago. And here's a couple points where we're more than likely to get resistance. We have this trend line right here. I'm kind of calling this low and this low here. There's kind of a strange head and shoulders here, although it's not really a head and shoulders. You can see there's a double top right here. So this would be your double head, and you kind of have a fairly weak shoulders on both sides here. So it's a very, very strange, but it is a form of a head and shoulders pattern. The implied downside target is pretty aggressive. It's actually down here in the 5, so I'm not going to call that out. I don't think that's in the cards right now, but it may be. So I think this trend line could be some upside resistance for Bitcoin. If we can get above this trend line, then we're more than likely going to test this larger trend line right here, which we all know about this trend line. And if we get above this level here, which basically it's 7,900, 8,000, something like that. It's not a very aggressive trend line. You can see it's fairly horizontal. But if we can get above that, then we're probably going to go ahead and test this trend line. But we could fail at any point until then. Now, in this base over here, this is the most recent comparison we have for this kind of action that we're going through over here. And it's been expected. It's been expected. So as you can see, there was a rectangle of consolidation right here. So let's go ahead and zoom in on that. And the reason I'm not including these two peaks right here is because they're pretty extreme. And you couldn't have an expectation for it to go up to this level prior to it happening. So I'm kind of respecting the most recent action here. And actually it looks like it's drawn a little bit askew. All right, so there you have this consolidation, the highs, the lows, and it generally stays within that range until we get this ultimate upthrust here. The question is, we have a range here now. What's going to happen? What's going to happen here? So here's our range right now, and we can float around here as much as we want without any major upside promise or downside promise for that matter. And it's the break of this range that will give us the clue as to where we're headed next. And so you can see breaking out of this range, we can come up and test this trend line and fail again, maybe something similar to what happened over here without much fanfare. But if we can get above that, then we're probably going to test this upper trend line. If we don't, have the upthrust here, that would be extremely weak in Bitcoin, and a very long sideways consolidation in my mind without a lot of upthrusts would mean that we're just going to roll over and south of this trend line here. So Bitcoin's very trendless, and if we go down to the 2-hour time frame, so we're going to see that area of chop that I was discussing here. This consolidation, we're well below my 200 period moving average on the 2-hour chart, which indicates that we're still in a downtrend, and this has quite a bit of ways it can run. I have a feeling when I click on things, it doesn't happen. So you can kind of see there that the 200 is probably going to kind of follow this trajectory, and price right now is following this trajectory. So we're going to come to a head with this, looks like in a couple of days, if we don't get just a big upthrust right there. And anything can happen in these markets, ladies and gentlemen. You just have to wait for that volume. But as you can see, this has been very choppy, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this. It's been up and down and up and down, and nothing has really been running. Nothing's been running. We had each of these up thrusts followed by down thrusts, and it's just been chopping up, over, down, over, down, over, down. Keep in mind, price has been trending down, but up, over, down, up, over, now down again. So most recently here, let's take a look at this immediate price action. So we're living above this 50 period on my 2-hour chart here. We had the up thrust this morning, or was this last night? I forget. 5:31. Yeah, so this was early this morning. The up thrust here, subsequent sideways action, down thrust with an accumulation bar. So that's an interesting bar right there. This bar alone indicates how choppy Bitcoin has been. It couldn't even have a downtrend, right? Couldn't even have a downtrend. The volume there has been higher. So you can see just a lot of chop in this market, and we can go anywhere within this range and still be considered within this consolidation. And until we break out of this, we're just in for a lot of chop and a lot of pain. All right, so let's go with Ethereum here. Next, we have Ethereum. Very similar action to Bitcoin. You can see we're also stuck in a range here. But if we zoom out on this 2-hour chart, you can see we talked about this well-defined head and shoulders in Ethereum breaking down, not quite hitting the price target of the 480 level, 470 level, something like that. We paused here. We had an inverse head and shoulders. Here's the neckline. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on there. So let me get rid of that. And you can see here that we tried to break out earlier today. The volume really didn't give us any follow through. And right now we're living underneath the neckline of this head and shoulders, which is not very healthy. But if we do end up moving up out of this, if you notice, the target for this head and shoulders is right in line with the neckline as it extends into, as it extends. And you can have these up thrusts to test these necklines later. And I mean testing the neckline, not this breakdown point, because here's your breakdown point, right? We can test the breakdown point just fine, but we can still go up and test the neckline. This neckline can also be tested. So keep that in mind as well if we get higher in Ethereum. But here we have, again, that confusing candle we just had with Bitcoin. Big downside volume with some accumulation in the bar. You can see right there, big volume bar in Ethereum, definitely giving us some, no, we're failing, never mind, we're being accumulated, and then no follow through to the upside, not as of yet. So we'll have to wait and see if this can give us some follow through. And you're going to want this to take out this most recent high that it placed. Otherwise, it's more than likely just going to continue to be choppy action. But this is a very dangerous market. You should look for extremely high quality setups and extremely good volume. And that's going to lead us into Ontology, which was looking really good this morning. We actually caught this live in the power hour. It was popping up here out of this consolidation area. And I think we were even looking at on the 15-minute time frame. So you can see there we had two nice downward consolidations. We had great volume coming in here and then a follow through. You can see right there. Did go higher throughout the day, although not aggressively. Most of these moves have not been aggressive as of late. Getting a nice pullback. Hopefully we can get back to the breakout point. Maybe if Bitcoin stays healthy, we can go ahead and get a continuation after a test of this breakout point in Ontology. But we're living above this 200. That's on the. Sorry, here's the 2-hour chart. Here's that 200 period moving average. We are living above that now, which is healthy. Also living above the breakout point. If we can consolidate in lower volume, you can look for a potential re-entry with Ontology either towards these most recent lows, which would be the 195 level, or the test of this breakout point right here on this declining trend line. So let me show you this larger term trend. We haven't really looked at that. So Ontology was one of our early winners we caught over here and running up with a big base, having another big run up, and now having a bigger base. These tend to give you really nice runs, but if the market is very bearish, it's obviously going to put a damper on those runs. But look for this one to maybe have some great moves if Bitcoin can stay healthy. And another one that we're looking at here is WAN. I guess I'll pop up WAN since we have it on the screen here, but I was looking for ADA. So WAN recently pulling all the way back down from the highs, coming all the way back down to the initial breakout point. You can see right there at the 55.4 level being supported over here, and most recently trying to break out from this declining trend line. We're going to go back into the 2-hour chart. And nothing extravagant here in WAN, but it did try to break out earlier in the day, just no momentum in WAN. But keep an eye on this one. If this can get some volume coming in it with some momentum and price action going higher, hopefully up and crossing this 200 period moving average on the 2-hour chart, WAN could be good for a trade. But I really want to look at ADA. which probably had one of the more bullish setups yesterday. Great volume. You can see here we have really good volume coming in, lots of green action on the breakout. So we have a trend line right here. We caught this in a live stream last night, if you guys were able to catch that. You can go ahead and watch that video from yesterday. It was a live stream. Has the Power Hour thumbnail on it. And good volume on the breakout there, continuing to the upside. Really good volume. I mean, this was what, 8, 9 candles? This was 8 candles, 8 2-hour candles of just solid green. Very good. And subsequently selling off here, volume is lower. And you can see this high volume candle is a big accumulation candle. So that is good for ADA coming into the prior high right there. If we can get supported here, have some low volume action, and then maybe curl up, that could be really good for ADA. So keep an eye out for ADA. Also respecting and trying to get above this 200 period moving average. And against the US dollar, it just poked above it. But against Bitcoin, we're living above it. So on Bitcoin, we're living above that 200 period moving average, and the volume here is very, very weak on this pullback. This could be a pretty decent place to get ADA if we get some bottoming action here. So look for ADA to possibly continue its run if Bitcoin stays healthy. And another one I want to look at is BNB. So BNB against, let's go against Bitcoin actually. BNB looking for a blue sky breakout. Let's go out to the daily actually on BNB. We don't do this too often. But right there is the all-time off, this huge run-up in BNB. Tested here. Now we're living above this. Although the volume isn't as healthy as I would like it to be, there's a possibility that this remains strong. So keep an eye on BNB. If you want to take an arbitrary position, you can. But you're going to have to give this a stop loss because, again, if Bitcoin gets fudded down, it's probably going to take the rest of the market with it. Your natural stop here in BNB is very deep at 14%. But if you want to give it that much, you must trade this with a smaller position sizing. Okay, that's the only way to trade these coins that have very deep natural stop losses is with smaller position sizing. So let's go down to the 2-hour chart in BNB. So here's that little consolidation that we had. And last night we caught this in the live stream actually. A little higher, we caught it in the live stream, I think up here. And it just continued going. It really just continued going. And probably a good stop, 6% there at the 17.85 level. Something like that at about 6% if you wanted to give this a more reasonable stop loss action. But BNB looking very healthy up here, trying to break out. There should be more volume. If we can get more volume, then you can participate in BNB. But if we don't get the volume coming in, I would avoid this one, just due to the general market fuddiness with the larger coins. But BNB overall looking very healthy. If Bitcoin were just going sideways or not looking like it wants to just tank, then I would think BNB would run. So keep an eye on BNB, keep an eye on WAN, keep an eye on ONT, and definitely keep an eye on I was going to say Amazon, on Ethereum. If it can get above this neckline, it could do pretty good there. And if all those are rocking, Bitcoin's obviously rocking as well, but probably going to give you the least price percentage gain is Bitcoin. So, all right, there you go, guys. It's a video long in the making, so kind of a long video there, but hope you can digest all of that. Please ask any questions you have in the comments below. Please leave any comments. Subscribe if you like the video. Like the video if you like the video, guys. And I will see you next time.